everybody. Welcome inside the CrossFit Update Studios for our live preview of Week 1 of the 2018 Reebok CrossFit Games Regionals. I am Sean Woodland with Rory McKernan and Tommy Marquez. Kayla Banfield will be joining us throughout the show to check in on all things social media. Regionals are upon us. I love this time of year. There's a lot of things that we're going to be paying attention to here over the next 3 weeks. What are you looking forward to seeing the most here, though, in week number 1?
Just the fact that it's happening, first of all, right? We're about to come on the air, and you're getting all psyched up, and it's finally time. You know, this is just it's a fantastic time of year, and for me, it's about the women this regional season. We've got 6 of the top 10 female competitors from last year's CrossFit Games who are throwing it down first this weekend, and we're just going to start off strong. We've got all the daughters going. We've got just excitement to kick this thing off in a perfect way.
And I love that the week 1 regionals and the athletes are basically kind of the guinea pigs as far as programming goes. Everyone at home and all the athletes going in future weeks are watching intently to see how these events play out on the competition floor. And I love that these athletes in particular don't have as much time to strategize, just go out there and throw it out.
Well, settle in because we have a lot on tap for you here this afternoon, or what time it is where you are at night, possibly it's early morning. We will take a look at the regionals week 1. We're going to break down Europe, East, and the South. We'll also have social media highlights throughout the show from those regionals with Kayla Banfield. Great matchups that we're going to be watching here in week number 1 across all 3 regionals. Let's break it down for you, though, because I know some things have changed as far as regional structure and how many qualifiers each regional sends. The 3 regionals going this weekend: the East, the South, and Europe. The East will be held in Albany, New York. The South is in Salt Lake City, Utah, and Europe is in Berlin, Germany. Each regional, they send 5 qualifiers from all 3 categories. So that's 5 from the men, the women, and the teams. And as far as Europe goes and the other regionals here, the 3, I mean, there are some really big marquee athletes that we'll be paying attention to here in week number 1.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of awesome storylines that I'm looking forward to. How does Katrin deal with not being the front runner? When you look at what version of CLB are we going to see this year, coming back from injury, and even we have a couple of the top USA women going this week, and Tennille Reed Berline and Kari Pierce. And can these 2 athletes kind of break down that international wall that all these ladies have set up at the games the last couple of years?
Yeah, and Sean, you mentioned the format itself is something that also is exciting for me. It's been a minute since we've changed the regional boundaries. This weekend in particular, we'll see the effect of 2 of those. We'll see the first ever regional event in Berlin, and then we'll see how the extraction of Latin America, that'll come in weeks, that'll come later, but the extraction of that, how will that affect the South regional? It's going to be a whole different. It's exciting to see something that's caused by growth, right? We had to change according to the growth.
And one of the reasons we had to change is Europe. This is an old, new regional. We used to have a Europe regional before we changed the format and went down to just 8 regionals. Now we have split the Meridian regional into Europe and Meridian. Europe is now comprised of Europe North and Europe Central, and they will send 5 qualifiers from the men, women, and the teams to the CrossFit Games. And the split has really changed things up, especially on the men's side. Here are your 10 qualifiers for the individuals last year from the Meridian Regional. On the men's side, only Björgvin Karl Gudmundsson and Fredrik Agidius are back. On the women's side, Jamie Green is the only one who switches regionals, but again, Sam Briggs will not be competing this year because of that injury. Now, how do these changes really affect the depth of the Europe Regional?
Well, you can see that there was more women who are returning. So that's even in light of the fact that we have changed these regional boundaries. What I like about Europe is it's basically the prototype for why the regional boundaries were changed. Before this shift, you had guaranteed athletes who had been to the CrossFit Games who were not going to make it back before the competition even started, just by virtue, there just wasn't enough space on the ship. Even now, in the European Regional, you're going to have 5 women who have been to the CrossFit Games at least twice. Some of those guys are top 3 finishers and podium finishers or return champions. So this is just an indication of why that shift needed to happen, especially when you look at the women.
Yeah, for the women, it just kind of seems like business as usual. It's a stacked field. But the men, there's a huge change. We saw that 3 of those 5 qualifiers are gone this year, moved on to the new Meridian Regional. So if you look down the leaderboard to see that who can maybe take those spots, well, 4 of the next 5 guys, spots 6 through 10 on the leaderboard, they're gone too. So there's almost without a doubt now, based on just the people that are going to be at the regional, that we're going to see some new names and faces in the top 5.
I mentioned that Sam Briggs will not be competing at regionals because of that elbow injury. She is still planning on competing at the CrossFit Games in the 35 to 39-year-old Masters division. Now, on the men's side, there's another guy who will not be competing this year, also because of injury, and he's an athlete who you usually can pencil in as far as one of those top 5 spots are concerned, and that's Jonakoski. How do their absences now affect the field?
Yeah, so we were waiting during the first week of the Open for Jana to post his score, and it never happened. Instead, we got an IG post that said that he had a nagging knee injury, that he was going to have to get treated, and he would have to recover from that. Jana's never really made a huge splash at the CrossFit Games, but he always makes a huge splash at the regionals. He's won his region twice. He's never finished outside of the top 3 in 4 years of competition, and he's always good for at least one event win, if not more. So he will be missed greatly. It affects the competitiveness of the region, and in particular, I'm thinking BKG is going to have his work cut out for him. He doesn't have that same rabbit to chase or battle with that he had in Jonakoski.
And then you look on the women's side as well with the absence of Sam Briggs. You know, we do get to see her on the Masters level, but it's hard to explain just how much of a hole is going to be left when you're missing an icon of the sport and just how strong she has been typically at the regional level. You look at over the course of the last 5 years at regionals, she's averaged more than 2 event wins per competition, 2.6 to be exact. That means every year, year in, year out, she's winning events. And not just that, there's an aura about Sam Briggs that she carries out on the competition floor that is just so positive. She's one of the favorite athletes behind the scenes for the newcomers, and she's one of those people that the minute she's on the floor, all eyes go to her because us watching at home know that something amazing can happen.
Yeah, but people are very happy, I'm sure, if you're competing in the women's side that Sam Briggs is out. It means there's a spot open. But then that is short-lived because here comes Sara Sigmunds' daughter back into the mix. She was in the Central last year. She is now back in the Europe Regional. How do you think she stacks up now against the rest of the competition?
We were talking about this earlier. I think it's like you replace the sledgehammer of Sam Briggs with a shotgun of Sara Sigmunds' daughter, because she's just going to come in firing on all cylinders. You look at how well she's performed at the regional level the last few years. 3 straight regional titles. You look at all the events that she's competed in across those 3 years, there's 20 in total. Only 1 finish outside of the top 5, and that was a 9th, so none even outside of the top 10. There's just no room for athletes going up against her to make up ground and hopefully unseat her for one of these spots.
Sledgehammer versus shotgun. Is that a fair comparison?
I mean,
it's close. I get it. They both make an impact. They both make an impact. Sara will certainly excel very well, but you got to keep in mind also she's dealing with another daughter who has won her region on multiple occasions, in Annie Thoris' daughter. So don't just hand her the crown automatically. Also, the defending champion Kristen Holte, who's going to have a fantastic first event in the 333. And you got to take into account that I just want to plant this seed. And I'm a huge Sara Sigmunds' daughter fan, but at the Invitational, when we saw the handstand obstacle course introduced, she had the most trouble out of any athlete. We saw in Sam Briggs, in the year that she was trying to defend her championship, didn't even go back to the CrossFit Games because in Europe, you get punished for bad handstand walking. Just saying, she's going to have her work cut out for her, even though she is the shotgun you mentioned.
One man who may not have his work cut out for him, he will still have a challenge, but that's Björgvin Karl Gudmundsson. The men who were closest to him at the Meridian Regional last year are now at the new Meridian Regional, leaving Björgvin Karl Gudmundsson kind of all by himself as far as the elite are concerned in Europe. What are the chances that this guy now just runs away with this thing this weekend?
Well, I took a look at my Magic 8 Ball, Sean, and it said chances are looking pretty good. I would go so far as to say go to Vegas, look at your local sports book, and bet the farm on BKG and taking down this regional competition. You look at how well he's performed, not just at the regional level, but at the games too. There's no one else in the competition in Europe that's even been inside of the top 10 at the games. He's done that 3 straight years. He's the last Europe male to podium since Nico Salo did it back in 2009. And he's one of those athletes just kind of steady as he goes. He may not necessarily excel at any one event, but he's never going to finish outside of the top 5. And by the end of the regional competition, you're going to look and you're just going to see him standing with maybe even a 100-point lead we could see at the end of this regional weekend.
Now, you mentioned at the top of this segment here about the men behind Björgvin Karl Gudmundsson who have also moved on to the Meridian Regional spots 6 through 9 there. So we are going to see some new names get into the mix here. There are some dark horses lurking who are going to go to the CrossFit Games. Who do you think fills that bill?
I love picking dark horses, Sean. This one's going to be challenging too, but I think there's a young athlete by the name of Victor Langspeed. Now, you look at his performance at regionals. He's actually been to regionals three times as an individual. His last 3 performances were 11th, 11th, and 9th. And when I talk about that power vacuum of people leaving, even up through the top 10 spots, well, Victor was 11th, so he's the next guy in line with all those people leaving to kind of step up and perform. And I like the fact that, at the very least, if he hasn't been in the top 10, he's been consistent around that 9 through 11 spot. And this is the kind of opportunity guys like this need to really kind of have that next step up to the games level. He had a slip in open performance this year, but my sources tell me that it's actually because he was kind of hedging his bets and focusing on peaking for regionals, and it looks like it could pay off.
What about the women's side?
Yeah, so what's funny about the women and the men in Europe is that there are so many of these athletes, and you and I have been going for a couple of years now to Europe, that have been there for multiple years, like Victor, and I'm going to choose a few of those actually right now. First, honorable mentions to Ireland's Emma McQuaid, who's been knocking on the door, missed by 2 spots the last 2 years. Anna Fraghow, who almost got in as well from Greece. She's knocking on the door. I got my eyes on them, but especially above all is Hungary's Laura Horvath. She's a young athlete, 21 years old, but still, this will be her 3rd CrossFit Games regional. So that's a ton of experience for a young person. In the past, her undoing has been strict movements. We don't see that in the events of this year, and she can do really well. More than anything, I reached out to, she has a new coach, Michelle Letendre, who of course you guys know very well. And so she's on the DECA Comp team. Michelle said that of any of the athletes she's coaching, Laura has made the most progress this year, and that these events line up really nicely for her. So looking at the schedule of events and knowing what her strengths and weaknesses are, I think we could see Hungary going to the games as an individual for the first time.
You mentioned Hungary has never been there, and there are a lot of countries that will be represented at this Europe Regional. You and I have gotten to see this firsthand at the Meridian Regional the past couple of years. You look up in the stands, and one section you have fans flying the French flag, and then you have Russian fans, and then you have German fans, and it's really a truly international affair. And to me, that's what makes the Europe Regional one of the most fun to watch.
And I think that's only going to be amplified by the changes that we made this year. You look at how big Europe was getting in the last 3 years with the new format, 2015 to 2017. They added more athletes in terms of registration than NorCal, SoCal, and Canada West even had total combined. So they were just getting massive. And now you kind of break up the talent and registration there. It gives opportunities for some of the other countries who are still developing to maybe sneak an athlete in there and get to see some new flags on the leaderboard for the first time.
I get to sit in some pretty fun places when we're doing CrossFit Games and CrossFit Games Regionals competition. I am so happy and blessed to be here with you guys, but I am going to miss the European Regional. And this is just from a vibe perspective. It is louder, and people are singing songs and chanting, and they bring their own different cultures. Where, as you said, a domestic region, you've got a couple states involved. Now you've got 15 to 20 countries sometimes, and everybody does bring their own flavor, and they just are fantastic and fun sports fans.
And there are international rivalries that we see, in football, soccer for us, that are now going to play out here on the CrossFit competition floor, and it is a lot of fun to watch. That's what's going on as far as the stuff we know about. There's a lot going on social media with the athletes who are involved in the Europe Regional as well. Kayla Banfield is in our brand new social media set, and she has been keeping an eye on all the Europe athletes and their social media feeds. Kayla?
Thanks, Sean, and that's right. This is our brand new social media desk, and I'm very excited to be reporting from it for over these next 3 weekends. Now, right now, I have Facebook Live up next to me, and I'm seeing everything that you guys are posting. So if you have any questions or comments, anything you want to throw back to the desk, please comment on the Facebook live stream. I did just want to bring attention to Greg Gomez, who says Tommy Marquez's son looks really good. So there you go, Tommy. So keep those coming. We also want to hear from you on your Instagram feeds too. Please use the hashtag #UpdateShow, and we'll do our best to feature you on the show. So today, though, we are doing some athlete highlights. The first athlete that I wanted to highlight is Arne Bjorn, who is an ex-tennis player. One thing I found super interesting about Arne is that he's actually a plant-based athlete. Now, I know there's lots of naysayers out there, so props to Arne for being able to build strength on a plant-based diet, hopefully giving hope to others out there who are looking to do a similar thing. Arne also has a very cute daughter, Haldora Maria, and as you can see in this picture, is an integral part of Arne's recovery, piecing him back together. I think we all need a Haldora to help us recover from some of our CrossFit workouts. And I just wanted to finish on a funny video. There was a lot of talk about the new handstand push-up standard, so nice to see someone making a bit of a joke about it. Obviously, that wasn't his actual video, that was a joke. So as I said, I do have the Facebook Live feed up next to me. If you guys want to ask any questions, have a chat to me, I'm having a good time communicating with you guys, and also upload those photos with the hashtag update show. I did have a question come through before, which I want to ask the guys at the desk, and that's from Lisa Turner, and she says, have you guys tested any of the workouts?
Oh.
No, I have not.
Well, as Tommy's son.
How about you, Junior?
Oh, man, I actually have. I've tested 2 of the workouts. I did the 333 and then Linda, just to kind of feel what day 1 feels like for the athletes. I got to say the last mile on the air runner is...
And you're a good runner. That's saying a lot.
Oh, man,
yeah.
It was one of the hardest miles I've ever run. You know, I like running a lot, but that event just wrecked me. And then Linda was really humbling, just because I got capped and I looked up and I was starting the round of 5. It just demoralized me and just, walked away.
Yeah, those events are legit. Kayla, thanks so much. Keep those questions coming in. Kayla will be monitoring those, and she'll make sure to get them over here to us at the desk.